This episode of Twin Speaks contains spoilers.
Hello and welcome to Twin Speaks for 1917. I am your co-host Pat. You can find me on Twitter at kidcombo_, and I am of course joined by my twin brother and co-host. You can find him on social media at Anamonium. It's Andrew.
And Anamonium.
At Andemonium. With a D.
I don't really have a preamble today. I'm pretty tired.
You sound sick.
I fell asleep on the couch before I came here.
Is that really?
Yeah, I had gotten home and I was doing some stuff for work, and then I just sat there before I was gonna make dinner, and I don't even know what woke me up. I think Murph barked or something like that, and it woke me up. And I go and look, and it's 6:30. I've been asleep for 45 minutes, and Matt was home, and he didn't leave his room at all in 2 hours. So, and I got up and I was I was just asleep. And he goes, "You were asleep this whole time?" And I was like, "Yeah." Why did you not? You didn't hear anything out there? Not that it's his responsibility to come wake me up, but.
Or to check on you. Hey, buddy. Just seeing what you're doing.
I was just asleep like this. I don't think I feel like such an old man. I don't think I've ever fallen asleep on the couch like that.
I'm more laughing that it's neither of us said what you were doing when you just described how you were laying down. And there's just a blank spot now on the podcast.
Yeah.
You kind of look like a mummy.
For an audio medium.
Yeah.
Just like this. Like what I'm doing right now. I was just sitting.
He's doing the Nazi salute.
Put on blackface. No.
We both survived the coronavirus. Thus far.
Have we? Oh, yeah, thus far.
Well, maybe. Maybe we're both sick. I don't know.
I'm not really sick. I think I'm just losing my voice.
Oh, I see. I'm kind of sick.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of yodeling.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of kickflips.
What? What? How's that? Kickflips with your what? Tonsils?
No, I said I'm sick.
Oh, skirt. I gotcha.
Yeah. Is that all we got for preamble?
That's all you had. You had one contribution. You did nothing. It's the whole story how I fell asleep on the couch and you were like, I'm sick. Skirt.
Okay. Do you want to talk about news?
Sure.
Yeah, this is our first, kind of first news of 2020.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, no, we did them for Star Wars. We did some stuff. That was like a catch-up. But this is stuff since we've done sort of our last two album of the year and movie of the year episode. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. For when we actually talk about 1917, it'll be interesting to see if that changes your list at all.
Oh, it did.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Damn, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually thought about that during the movie. We'll talk about it later, but
yeah.
I think maybe 20 minutes into this movie, I was like, this is everything I thought it was going to be.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, first bit of news, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Director Scott Derrickson has dropped out.
Yeah.
So, the couple things I think I read was just that it said the reason is creative differences.
Yep.
And that it's mostly mutual. Derrickson came out and said that it was mutual. My theory, and I'm sure this is sort of similar to a lot of people online, but is that he's dropped out because they weren't connecting on, him and Kevin Feige weren't connecting on the horror aspect of it.
Well, that's it, too, I think.
That's gotta be.
Well, that's what a couple places have said, but I think that, and we had kind of talked about this before, is that when they announced this at Comic-Con or D23 or whatever it was, and he said, I think it was Derrickson that said this is going to be kind of horror-y. I think it was an attempt, he knew at the time, I think, that this wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
And it was kind of his attempt to be well, if people are excited about it, maybe they'll budge.
Or I'm saying it out loud, so you guys have to do it now.
Yeah, and that obviously didn't work. And, I mean, they're just a machine. They just know exactly what they're going to do for these movies, and they just need a name.
Yeah.
They don't need actually, a voice at all.
Or, yeah, or even, quote unquote a style or anything.
No,
you
because
know,
they're all so similar.
yeah,
Like, I think that's one thing in now, sort of when you have them all together, there's not like one directorial voice in any of these. Like, I think that's why the Russos are so good, is that they kind of have something that's interesting and it's right on the edge of like being something that's unique, but at the same time, it's kind of still part of that Marvel aesthetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly what it was, is that he said horror, and he was like, fuck you guys have to do it now. And they were like, we absolutely do not.
Well, and then that's Kevin Feige's been like, he keeps walking it back. So he keeps going like, well, I don't know. It's not going to be really horror. It'll be like kind of scary.
Yeah. I would love to see it be more like that, but they'll never do that.
No.
The fact that they've even come out and said that Deadpool is going to be rated R is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't believe that at all.
But that's the thing. It's like Doctor Strange is a tentpole character.
Yeah.
They have to make it accessible to everybody. So if they make it a horror movie, then that's a whole chunk of people who are like under the age of 16 or whatever, 18, who just won't go to it. Or, I mean, they'll go to it, but like some people won't be able to, right? Like it sort of limits how many people are actually going to see it in theaters where they make their money.
Well, that's the thing, is that they're not in the awards game. They're in the money-making game. So, like, that was like the thing with, what's it called? Captain Marvel getting kind of somewhat announced. Is that movie made $1 billion.
Yeah.
No shit, it's going to get a sequel.
Well, yeah.
But,
like
it's just, it's not necessarily like, they don't care how that movie is. They just, it made them money. It made them money, and they're gonna make another one. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with Doctor Strange. That they have to. You're right. Like they have to make it accessible. So they're not gonna do that horror. They're not gonna make it any sort of unique. They might go and get some big name actor and do something in it, and that'll be the draw.
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's what they always do.
The other thing I was gonna say is that maybe, I mean, he's staying on as an executive producer.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh,
which I thought was interesting. But it'd be kind of interesting to see what he does in the future, because the one franchise that Warner Brothers has been trying to do for a long time is Justice League Dark. So you think that maybe if he wants to go in that horror direction, and if Warner Brothers is sort of scrambling for another franchise to sort of do, maybe they hand that one to him and say, okay, go nuts. Like, we just want this to actually happen.
Yeah, I think I heard that on another podcast, is that there was a couple like Star Wars directors that have kind of gone separate ways with Disney that might end up doing sort of like Justice League Dark or something in Warner Brothers, because there's so much source material too. Is that like Justice League Dark has all this stuff, so many storylines and arcs and stuff like that, but all these Star Wars movies, like especially the recent trilogy, they're pulling from recent stuff, but they're not, there's no like overarching storyline that they're kind of sticking to. Like they're just kind of making it up as they go. And I think that much uncertainty is why these directors didn't work out. So I think that maybe Scott Derrickson was like, I'm going to do something different. There is no arc. I'm doing my own thing. And then they were sort of like, wait, no, you can't do that. Yeah. So who knows? I don't know. I feel like that's definitely a way to go, though, is he might end up doing something else.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is interesting. Like, it sounds like everything that they're doing with that project is sticking the same. So they're keeping the same script, same schedule, same everything, which makes me think that they already have someone replacing him.
Yeah.
But like,
I
it's
read
still,
that too. Is that it was like it was pretty much all done.
Yeah, it's still supposed to come out May 7th or whatever.
So weird.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Did you have anything else for that?
No, and just sort of talking about Disney though. We were talking about Obi-Wan getting delayed.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
There was like all this stuff about Wait, I don't know. Do you have something?
No, I actually forgot. I completely forgot about
like,
that.
as far as I know, it got delayed, but it's not happening. It sounds like it might even come out. Like they said delayed, but then I was reading this interview with Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, and it sounded like he said it's still coming out, like when it's supposed to come out. But then there was another one I saw, and it was like it was supposed to come out after the dude from Rogue One. Mm-hmm. It was Jyn Erso and the other guy.
Yeah. He's
having a prequel series.
Oh.
And so, like, apparently now it's coming out after that. But there was, like, an interview with him and Ewan McGregor, and he was like, no, there's no creative differences. Like, we're still going to release it at the same time. So,
it just sounded like, because I had read a couple different ones, and one, it just sounded like that they were, like, the script was written, everything was finished, but then there was, like, they just wanted to change some stuff.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, and to me, that's so, like, so in the cards for Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
Like, of all these new sort of Star Wars movies that have been made, the one thing that people every single time that a movie comes out, they do like the press or whatever, and they complain about like Kathleen Kennedy being too close to the project and just like sticking her fingers in everything. And
yeah, potentially. It sounds like Hossein Mini, who was one of the writers for it, dropped out, and then it sounds like potentially Dave Filoni and Christopher Yost, who are both like Star Wars writers. Like Dave Filoni is a Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars writer.
Oh,
and
cool.
then they both worked on The Mandalorian as well.
Oh,
but
wow.
It sounds like that's kind of what stalled it. Is they do have sort of a script, but this one writer is not attached to it anymore, and they're looking for a new one. So yeah, Variety says, it just sort of that's the only thing that's happening is that the one writer is no longer attached to the project as Disney wishes to overhaul the scripts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It did. The one thing I read was that it is delayed, but they're still planning on starting filming by the end of the year or something like that.
Yeah, it looks like end of 2020, early 2021.
Cool. So it's not done, but they're just sort of taking
Yeah,
some
I
time.
think that the reaction is maybe unnecessary, but
Sure.
that's fine.
Which is maybe what Ewan McGregor was trying to walk back from too. It's like, damn, everybody, just chill.
Yeah. But I think it's just the nature of that series too.
Well, the nature of that
Star
franchise. Okay. The other bit of news. There's a recent interview with Variety that Carey Mulligan did, and she sort of brought up an interesting point about. She suggested that Oscar voters for the Academy Awards need to actually prove that they've seen the movies that they're voting for, or the movies that are up for awards. The little quote here says, I wonder if the system works in terms of getting sent 100 screeners. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to vote unless you can prove that you've seen every single one. There should be a test. The films that get left out are indisputably brilliant. That was Carey Mulligan. And then the director of Promising Young Woman, the movie that she's sort of promoting right now, the director of that movie, Emerald Fennell, said that she believes awards voters prioritize movies based on subject matters that feels familiar. Quote, the truth of it is getting sent 100 screeners, Fennell said. The Academy and I suppose all of the institutions have members who are incredibly busy. It's difficult to make sure that people have seen everything and necessarily the way humans are. They prioritize things that they are comfortable with or they think they'll like. They'll go with like more established filmmakers. So what do you think of that? I think I definitely agree with that. I remember reading like some quotes before, and it was like it was like some interview, and they were asking one of the voters like basically his process for why he voted for whatever, and he was just like, oh, I don't know, like my kids dragged me to this, like it's the only thing I saw,
Yeah.
so that's what I voted for.
I got really distracted before all that because you went twice, and I've never heard you do it ever in your entire life, and you did it twice in a row, and it really distracted me. You just went, or then you read the thing, and I was like, what was that? Anyways,
I was like swallowing the beer that was still.
I don't know what the solution is for this. Like, what if they just give them all these screeners, and then they're like, okay, we can tell when it's been watched. They're just going to start leaving these movies on everywhere.
Or pay for the ticket and then not go in.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. But then, like, why would you bother at that point? You'd be like, well, fuck it. I don't really need to vote.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. It's, like, so weird. I think I guess I was naive in thinking that, like, they all would be watching them anyways. Like, if you are a voting member, how did you get to that point in the first place?
Because I think it's literally how long you've been in the
some guild or whatever it is, or the academy, I guess,
in the business too. Like, if you're a recognized member of whatever, then they're gonna come to you and say like, oh, because like there was another quote, and it was from Alec Baldwin being on Howard Stern, and he said that I'll find the quote here. He said that he knew someone that was in the movie business for decades, like some guy who was a script supervisor on Psycho, like from 1960.
Yeah.
And he said that the guy he was a producer, and he had controlled like a big block of votes, and he would literally go like, well, I can't watch all these movies, and then he would call another producer, and that guy would tell him who to vote for, because he literally couldn't, like, he was just like, I don't know, I haven't seen any of these, but I need to vote, like, I need to stay in this thing.
That's so shitty.
I know, it's like, but that's the thing, that was like one of the reasons people were so upset with Green Book winning.
Yeah.
Was because it's like, oh, well, all these old fogey guys voted for all their old fogey friends who all went up to accept the award, and was like, oh, thanks guys, like, you actually saw my movie, like, but that's the thing, you can't fix that. And I guess the Academy has tried.
Yeah.
I was reading this other article about the Academy kicked out a whole bunch of these older guys who were sort of like
doing that.
And they hadn't been active for like 3 or 4 years, and it's like, okay guys, you can't be around here anymore, you got to get out. But there's still tons and tons of other people. Like, there's like over 100 voters. Like, there's tons, and so you can't get rid of all of them at once. You have to, like, and so there's all these people in this
8,000 members right now.
Yeah.
Or as of 2016.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're trying to get more diversity as well, because if you just have like a 8,000 old white guys, they're all going to vote for the same kind of movie because, again, that's familiar. Probably the only movie they saw. So, yeah, but you can't enforce that either. You can't be like, okay, well, bring your movie ticket. We're going to do a little test, and we're going to see if you actually saw this movie.
Or maybe they like, you can only see them at Academy Awards screenings or something like that.
Maybe,
like, you have to go and prove that you were there type thing.
Yeah. Like, they're doing a screening this day. If you go, sign up, check your name off the list, sit down. Even
if you've already seen the movie.
Yeah.
You still have to go type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's such a weird aspect. I was, like, trying to read more about it just now, and, like, it's not... this article tries to, like, clear it up and be like, well, actually it's this way, but it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There's no process to it, and, like, it's kind of just this shady, like, everybody just shakes each other's hands and kisses each other on the cheek and goes like, great job, I'm so glad that I gave you this award, next time it's mine, right?
Yeah.
Like, they all do the exact same thing.
Great. I'm glad I voted for
yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I do agree. I think that there's... And that's maybe why people go, like, they've sort of diverted from awards meaning anything.
Well, yeah, I think that's always it, is that it's all about the show type thing. Like, people still watch it, and they still get some viewers. It's definitely not the way it has been, but, like, you read some of these, like, forums and comment boards and whatever, and they're always the same shit. It's always like, well, it doesn't matter, so who cares?
Yeah. But, I mean, like, I've watched it the last 3 years, and I've not necessarily been, like, happy with how they all go. I think last year's was pretty fun. Maybe it was the year before that, but either way, like, sometimes it can be enjoyable. But again, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of rich famous people patting each other on the back.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we just saw it with the Grammys, which was like literally yesterday.
Yeah, but I think the Grammys are almost a little easier to like take in because like I think for the most part, it's like Billboard type thing where like Billboard just analyzes the music that is most either requested or played.
Yeah.
And they do so because like the majority of radio stations are playing pop music. So they have like a huge like group and database of radio stations that participate in it. And that's why you look at it and it's like the best. Like I saw one, it was like the best rock songs of the decade.
Yeah.
It was like Imagine Dragons for like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Because it's an accessible band.
Yeah.
And that's what people associate with it. So like I think the Grammys is like, okay, this is a band or person or musician that I recognize and I hear all the time and deserves this album, even though like, or record or whatever, award, even though it doesn't really fit. Like there's,
okay, yeah.
And that's part of the thing with music and movies is that it's all subjective and who gives a shit. But like, I think that's the only way. In my head, I think Grammys almost makes more sense because I think they're pulling from more. Where like, if you go to the movies and if you just started giving awards to the movies that made the most money, it would just be one type of movie.
Yeah, because then every movie then would just be a competition to see how much money you can make.
And then you would
start, but that's not to say that's not what it is. I'm sure there's some motivation.
I think the movies are different in the sense that like some movie, like when they release the numbers on it, they don't include the marketing budget on it, and that skews it as well. So it looks like it made more money, but then the marketing budget's like $500,000. You're like, well,
yeah.
Anyways, we can talk about this forever.
I just want to agree or say quickly that I agree with what she says is in the beginning of the quote here is just like the films that get left out are indisputably brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. It's like she even says all the movies that are on for Picture of the Year or whatever are great movies.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be there in some way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right?
But it's just like whoever wins can be sort of... Yeah, anyway. Yeah, we literally could talk about this forever. Next piece of news. Shia LaBeouf has already written his follow-up to Honey Boy. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So his new project, or the script, I guess, is already written, but it's based on the life of artist Kevin Abstract from Brockhampton.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I guess it's tentatively titled Minor Modifications.
Oh, I didn't know it.
And the synopsis of the film reads, quote, based on
my life as a teen celebrity.
It says
my journey through rehab.
Based on the life of rapper Kevin Abstract, this biological fiction follows a Texas teen as he struggles with identity, finding meaningful relationship, sexual fluidity, and his direction in life. So apparently I didn't know this, but there was another article with Kevin Abstract where he says that Shia LaBeouf comes to his healing circle every Friday.
No.
So he hosts a healing circle at his house every Friday, and then Shia LaBeouf comes every Friday, and like a bunch of other celebrities come. And the whole point of it is for them to like express kind of whatever sadness or like emotional turmoil that they're going through.
Oh. And
they can sort of just like find comfort in each other kind of thing. But so Shia LaBeouf has been like sort of close to him for like a while now.
That's cool.
So it's kind of interesting that like he's now written then a biopic. But I guess it's already done.
Did you watch that Actors on Actors thing with, or not, I guess it wasn't Actors on Actors, Actors Roundtable with Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah.
It's so weird when he's on it because like he's clearly like a little shell-shocked by
for sure.
all these guys. And then also Tom Hanks is hilarious.
He's very, very funny.
He did stand up.
He's that bit about, and then Adam Sandler's like, I saw you. And he's like, what?
Yeah. And he's
like,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it must not have been good. He's like, not from what I saw, it was very good.
He's like, you killed.
But also, Adam Sandler saw all those movies.
Yes.
That's what I thought was wild, was like, he's seen every movie.
Yeah.
He's like a movie guy.
So I'm sort of been getting excited because Uncut Gems is coming out at the end of the week here.
Yeah.
Or not even, like in 3 days. And end of the week.
Yeah, well, you said that like it changed the wording on it. It was like, if you said it in a little while and then not even. But end of the week is still end of the week.
Yeah. It doesn't change
No.
what it is. And I've been watching all these videos on like him with the Safety brothers. And he literally talks about how he just like watches all these movies and he like saw Good Time and he reached out to them, I think.
That's cool.
And he was like, hey, I really like Good Time. Like, I'd love to work with you guys. And so they were like, okay, well, we wrote the script. And then they like pitched it to him and he was like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And they sort of kept working on him. They said they were like playing basketball with him a bit. And
That's cool.
then it was like, oh no, we got it. They like flew to his place, his office in LA. And they like nailed it down.
That's cool.
But then you see like he did Goldman versus Silverman.
I didn't watch it, but like I saw
It's funny.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a little depressing, but it's good. It's like 6 minutes long.
Oh, okay.
I watched it. It's like him and he's got this little whistle and he keeps blowing in at like the other brother and they're like getting in a fight and stuff. That's pretty funny.
I still don't understand what it's about. Why did you look at me like?
Because I was like, I thought you were going to wait for me to explain it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to explain it.
Yeah, you didn't. You just stopped. But yeah, that video is like so great. Not to like tangent too much off of what you said about Shia LaBeouf, but like, or Shia LaBeouf.
Baboo.
But Jamie Foxx is also like, well, he's so funny, but he's so good at like knowing when people are listening to him too.
Yeah.
But Tom Hanks is the king of it. Like he just the entire time he's being funny and like he's pulling people in and stuff. It's just weird. And then
He did a better job hosting than the
host.
actual host. Yeah.
Also, De Niro's weird. He's like this weird guy.
You know he's an anti-vaxxer?
Is he?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because he's also like really.
He's very, very liberal.
Left-wing, yeah.
But he's also an anti-vaxxer. He's like hosted events and stuff.
That's wild.
Like recently.
Oh,
Well,
shit.
maybe not in the last 10 years, but like
Oh, well, okay.
that I haven't seen. But that I really liked how charismatic Tom Hanks is.
Yeah.
I never realized that,
No,
I
I
guess.
didn't either.
And then him and like Jamie Foxx were sort of like feeding off each other, but Jamie Foxx is obviously very, very charismatic. But I didn't realize that Tom Hanks was. And then even like Adam Driver in that thing was kind of cool to hear from.
I didn't watch too. I honestly, I made it like 50 minutes in, and he hadn't really spoken all that much.
So
the one comment I read was like, at one point he cuts off Tom Hanks to ask Tom Hanks a question or something like that. And I was like, I gotta wait for this, and then it was like 50 minutes. I was like, how has this not happened yet?
It's very like he just kind of goes, "Oh, like duh," and Tom Hanks just like quickly answers them because he's like, it's like to do with the story he's telling.
Yeah.
But I thought he's charismatic. He's just
Adam Driver.
he seems very serious.
Well, I think he's just got that like.
Maybe he was
goofy,
nervous
like-
or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I think he doesn't talk for like 45 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I think that he just has that way of like he has that kind of like or kind of rambly like way of talking too, where you don't really know where he's going with it, and he just kind of talks and he just gets away from him like a little bit. When they asked him about the difference between like it was like one of the only thing he said in the first 45 minutes.
It's like
Difference
a brutal
between like
question.
comedy and like
It was
actually
like, what's
like
it like
being
being in the Marines and dying in like acting or
No,
whatever.
no,
And he's
it
like,
was
oh,
like-
well, one's real.
No, it was like it was something about though they were talking about comedy and about bombing or something like that, and how it's harder to try and be funny than actually like being funny,
okay.
and then they were comparing it to actually like life and death versus life and death,
Sure.
actually life and death. Yeah, and he gives such a brutal answer, and I'm like, man, I hope these other guys thought that was okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. So Shia LaBeouf's new project, because it's already appeared on like the blacklist, like the.
are you talking quieter right now?
Sorry?
You're talking quieter there.
Oh, I have headphones on, so I'm trying to make sure the level's fine.
You were like talking like this.
Like a radio NPR. Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, fuck you. I was gonna
yeah, anyway. But the last thing I wanted to say about that is like he apparently has already written the follow-up. This is the follow-up to a follow-up. He had already written another script called White Christmas. And it's about Nathaniel Lewis barricaded himself and his family inside their house on Christmas Day. And he was persuaded to surrender after a negotiator sang him a Christmas carol. What? But he like had a gun. He was like even shooting at cops.
What the hell?
Yeah. So apparently he wrote a script about that.
That's
anyway, cool. Matrix 4. This will be like the last piece of news, I think. Keanu Reeves is Matrix 4 starring Keanu Reeves is set to begin filming next month in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
So I brought this up because
I've read so many weird things about this movie.
Yeah. That's what I want to talk about. I mean, maybe we don't have enough time, but like there's a lot of weird theories about it.
It might have young Morpheus.
Mm-hmm.
It might also be in a world where the Matrix movie exists. And yeah, this is the one thing I was reading is that this is a world where the Matrix created this I'm gonna butcher this, but like the Matrix movie exists about the events of the Matrix in an attempt to downplay the actual events of the Matrix. And that's how these characters can come back that might have died. Because apparently there's like a whole bunch of them that are coming back.
Oh.
So it's this weird surreal universe that they're trying to create where the Matrix existed, but the movie itself also the universe of the Matrix. So the thing actually happened. But it's like a propaganda type thing. It's really weird. That's just the one thing I read, but like, because it's so confusing.
I had read that what's his name, Hugo Weaving, is not coming back.
No,
he apparently has like another thing going on, and then still no Lawrence Fishburne.
Really, I thought he was. Shoot. Okay.
So I had read a theory that said that he is, but they're not announcing it yet. But I don't know why they wouldn't announce it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, he's not there yet. And then there's like another little funny story about Brad Pitt had like passed on The Matrix.
Really?
Yeah. So apparently there's another interview that said that he was up for the role of Neo. They offered him Neo and he said no. Just because he like wasn't interested or something like that.
Okay.
But apparently, like, yeah, he was offered the whole franchise. Like, they were like, we want you to be Neo. So I had read a couple of things about, like, it would be completely different. Like, it would feel a lot different than, like, Keanu Reeves. Because Keanu Reeves is obviously, he's kind of like, he's a little stiff and uptight because he had that, like, back surgery. Right? Like, so it kind of, it affected, like, how he looked and, like, how he sort of approached it.
And shit, yeah.
Whereas, like, if it was Brad Pitt, I feel like it would just be... It'd still be good. I don't think it would be necessarily... Because I had read one comment said that he would be more action-y. Like, they would sort of take it to, like, an action movie kind of
right.
theme instead, or genre, rather, instead of being sort of this, like, neo-noir, cyberpunk kind of thing. I still think it would have been that, but I think this would have definitely... It's hard to speculate, but I think it would have taken his career path maybe a little bit different. Like there probably would have been a veer there or something.
Yeah.
Because maybe he gets more into sci-fi movies or something like that. I don't know.
Well, I don't think he's ever really strayed away from it though. Like that's the thing is that like, yeah, he definitely has a movie type, but like what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right. But like that's sick. That's crazy. That would have been so weird.
So yeah, that still is set to come out May 21st. Do you want to talk about some of those trailers that we watched quickly?
Sure.
Okay, well, there's the Daniel Radcliffe one. I just wanted to talk about this one because that's the one that people have shared that picture of him, and he's like he has like 2 guns, and he's wearing like a robe, and he's wearing like
it's gotten shared around for like ages. I feel like.
Honestly feels like it's been like 3 years that I've been seeing this picture, but that trailer has finally come out. So the movie's called Guns Akimbo, and it comes out. Oh, did I not even write it down? Oh, February 28th.
Nice.
So next month, it premiered at TIFF last September, and it's directed and written by Jason Lee Howden. So it's all about like, basically Daniel Radcliffe's character. There's like this thing called schism, and it kidnaps people and makes them fight to the death. He's watching it, and he's like, he knows how sort of popular it is, and then he gets kidnapped, and then sort of all unravels from there. I thought it looked kind of interesting. It looked cool.
It's an interesting concept for sure.
It reminded me a lot of Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
A little bit.
That little opening bit in the trailer where it's like he bumps into a guy and all the rings fall out of him. The color, the action, and everything kind of reminded me of it a lot. I thought it looked pretty interesting. And then there was First Cow, the new A24 film, directed and written by Kelly Reichardt.
I really don't know how to feel about this movie.
I don't know either.
I was like, this looks so slow and boring. And I'm like, how did they get like actors in this that you're like, oh, he's in this or they're in this? And I'm going, what the fuck is happening in this?
Yeah. Apparently,
like, wait, are they gay with the cow? Like, what the fuck? I couldn't figure it out.
I had to look it up, and it was like, it's based on a book called The Half-Life. So it's a loner and a cook have traveled west and joined a group of fur trappers in Oregon Territory. And he finds connection with a Chinese immigrant. The men then collaborate on a business, although its longevity is reliant upon the participation of a wealthy landowner's prized milking cow.
Right.
So then they like bring this cow everywhere that they go.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I didn't get that part because I was like, wait, the cow is like, is the cow gonna die also? Like, that's what I kept thinking.
Cow's gonna get sick. I don't know. And that comes out March 6th, so a couple months. And then Birds of Prey got a new trailer. I thought this one made it look a lot better. I'm a little bit more excited about this movie because of this trailer.
Yeah, the fact that they also show him wearing the mask, also like Black Mask wearing the mask, is like a huge spoiler, I think, to an extent. But also his character's name is Black Mask, so he damn well better wear the mask. Yeah,
it was cool that they showed you that it, he actually puts it on. But like Victor Zsasz looks cool. Yeah, all the girls look cool. Like, sort of had like a little bit more. What's her name? Mary Elizabeth Winstead
looks more actiony in this, and she looks fucking sick.
She was cool.
She has a lot of cool stuff in this.
I think this looks really interesting. It's comes out in like 2 weeks too.
Yeah, which is like crazy because like it didn't like this is a movie I didn't think was gonna get off the ground.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably good for news.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 1917. So directed by Sam Mendes, written by Sam Mendes and Kirsty Wilson Cairns, who also worked on the new Edgar Wright movie, Last Night in Soho.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's coming out, I think, this year, actually.
I think so, too.
I think they're in, like, post-production.
Yeah.
Stars George Mackay and Dean Charles Chapman. Also featuring Mark Strong, Andrew Scott, Richard Madden, Colin Firth, and Benedict Cumberbatch. Cinematography by Roger Deakins. Synopsis is April 6, 1917, as a regiment assembles to wage war deep in enemy territory, 2 soldiers are assigned to race against time and deliver a message that will stop 1,600 men from walking straight into a deadly trap.
I only just realized who Colin Firth's character is in this. It's the officer who gives them the details at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Well, the lighting was bad, okay? Like, I couldn't tell who he was.
What theater did you see it in?
Cineplex Odeon downtown.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Which is really nice.
Yeah. Shout out.
Holy shit, this movie's so good.
Yes.
This movie's unreal. I loved everything about this movie.
You know what's funny is I kind of expected it to be very, speaking of Oscars, Oscar baity, I guess. Because,
I did too.
The way that it came up and it was like, this one's being nominated for Best Picture. And like nobody had seen it because it came out at the end of the year. So it being nominated preceded it being released. And so I was like, oh, that's fucked. That's weird.
Yeah.
But seeing it,
I agree. I think it kind of almost hit me the way that like The Post did. Like The Post came out and you were like, this is such a bullshit excuse for Oscar bait movie. But like, you're right. The timing is so interesting with this movie because they clearly tried to get it out before to qualify.
Yeah.
And like, I think it should, if anything, win some awards because it's a beautiful movie. This movie is so gorgeous, and it's Roger Deakins, and like you can tell it's Roger Deakins within like the first 2 minutes of this movie.
The first shot, that one where the two of them are laying down on the sort of like the meadow or whatever, just waiting for an assignment. That's a Roger Deakins shot.
Yeah.
It's just like how it's framed, how the guy, you don't even see his face because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That whole setup is unbelievable.
When he's running through the city or whatever it is, and there's all that light behind all the, like the shadows and shit. I was like, this looks like. Well, I saw an interview with him and he talks about Jarhead. It kind of has that like Kuwait weird Blade Runner background to it all. And it's like the same thing. It's so weird, and you're like, "This is Roger Deakins."
So you're talking about the one where it's like the flares are being shot.
It's not that scene, but it's like just after that.
Oh,
so he's woken up.
Yeah,
and he's run past the flares, and now he's running down sort of the corridors where he meets those.
Right. So
Germans.
before. Oh yeah. Okay.
Before
so where
he
they've
jumps
lit
off
that
the cliff.
place on fire.
Yeah.
And stuff. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That whole section of the. I mean, and I was looking up like some of the stuff that they had to do.
Yeah.
For all this, and they had to like build all these sets, and they had to build miniature sets so that they could get the lighting right because they were doing it. Their plan was to do it all in one sort of shot, so one continuous shot and stuff. So they had to plan out how the shadows worked because they weren't going to get like that sort of like, okay, we're filming now, shoot the flare. Oh fuck, it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like they had to sort of work on it forever.
Yeah. I think that's. Do you want to talk about the one take thing now? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
This movie's so weird in the sense that like I think so I went to it with somebody who likes movies, doesn't necessarily pay attention to this sort of stuff. And we both kind of came out of it and he liked it. He didn't get it. He didn't get the whole one take thing. I don't think he even noticed, but like I went into it knowing that, and it's like all I was looking for. You're just looking for cuts.
Yeah.
It's this weird, like, because you know it's a one take. Like, I don't think I've ever looked for cuts in movies in my entire life. Like, I've never sat and watched a movie and gone, wow, I can't wait for them to cut. Yeah, there it is. Like, but it's because you know it doesn't happen. You're sort of watching for it anyways. Because it's impossible to not cut it. You have to. There has to be some scene change. And they do it in such a great way, and like a very natural way that it just works so well. Like, it'll be like they walk by a tree, or it'll switch from one character, the back of one character, one leaves the scene, it stays with him, and it rotates to the other one, and he leaves the scene.
Yeah.
So they do it in this like weird, like cool trade-off way, especially during the
where they're
first
just
bit.
Hiding when it actually is moving away.
Or they lose them in like a crowd or something like that. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this must be something. And it's just like little bits like that make, I think, I'll watch this again to really appreciate that sort of stuff. But I think during the movie, I think I appreciate it so much because it is sort of something that you recognize is difficult to do.
Sure.
So you're going like, holy shit, how do they do that? Like, that's insane. Like, I can't believe they pulled that off. And it's just like throughout the entire movie.
Well, and that's kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with like brilliant achievements.
Yeah.
Like, they planned it out because the way that the movie's told is that it all is supposed to happen within the day because he only has a certain amount of time to get from the camp that he's at. Well, sorry, the two of them when they leave, They only have that amount of time. So they want to do the full shot to make it look like you're seeing his journey from point A to point B as it happens. And it's unbelievable because, like, I even found that I was doing, like, I was pretending I was the director. Or I'd be like, oh, I would have cut it there.
I was doing the exact same thing.
They go behind a tree instead of in front of the tree. I'm going to say that's probably when they cut it. I have no idea if that's true or not, but like it was just sort of fun to mess around with that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, from like start to finish, that scene where he gets out of the water.
Yeah.
So it follows him as he's sort of like winding down this creek. He's sort of, or river rather, and he starts to see all the trees.
Yeah, he's like bobbing in and out of the water a lot too, which you can sort of go, okay, like that must be part of it.
And then you sort of see like the petals of the trees in the water, and you realize like, oh, he's made it to his sort of spot. So he kind of brings himself out of the water
over dead bodies
and over a bunch of these like bloated, like
gross,
disfigured, gross bodies that are just floating against this like tree that's sort of just laying there.
Yeah.
But the scene where he climbs out and then he walks into like all these soldiers sitting around listening to the guy sing.
That scene is unreal.
I almost started weeping.
I did too. There was something about the fact that they're all like sitting there watching them, that they're teenagers, that they're literally just like in the holding area to go cross onto the front line.
Yeah. And
the fact that this guy is singing amazingly. Like there's sort of a second where you're and this like happened to me, is that like my head sort of like you sort of adjust to what you're hearing. Like I'm sort of listening to it and going like, oh, that's good. And then you sort of settle into it and you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
And like there's something about it. Like it's just a beautiful song. It's a beautiful shot. The way that it's going around, showing all these different soldier faces. And like you're like, that kid's like 15, 16, 17.
Exactly.
Like, so like they're just highlighting all this stuff and highlighting why his mission is so important.
Well, and it gives a face. So instead of just being
like you're going to save
1,600,
exactly.
1,600 soldiers, and one of them happens to be the brother of the guy that just died, saving you also.
Yeah.
It now gives a face to all these people. So he realizes like, oh shit, these are real people. This is a real thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's sort of being like, oh, well, I'm looking for so-and-so. He's like, that's us.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Yeah. And then he just takes off because he's like, fuck, like I got to get to the front line. And then just the hilarious, like bureaucratic lineup that he has to go through to like get to the eventual like colonel.
Yeah. No, captain. I think it was captain. Captain McKenzie. Yeah.
I thought it was Colonel McKenzie. Something McKenzie.
Either way. Yeah,
like,
but like him going from like person to person being like, where the fuck is McKenzie? And he's like, oh, you want to go down the line farther? And it's like, he goes down the line farther asking again. And
meanwhile,
like, nah, you're farther down, dude.
Things are blowing up around him.
Guys are already getting ready to leave.
Guys are getting shot. He's even walking by like people having panic attacks. Like it's very real.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then for him to eventually get to him and then somebody to be like, great job. Even though he had to like fight this guy to be like, no, you can't do it.
And he just goes, get the fuck out of here when he's done. And then the guy on the other side's like, no, like you just saved a bunch of people.
But Mark Strong's character, who I actually really liked in this, I think Mark Strong is one of those actors that is typecast as a certain like villain type character.
A strong British
like stoic type, suave, and I think he plays something a little different in this.
Yeah,
and like
he's like friendly,
it's not like really different, but like it's different, and it was kind of nice. Anyways, he makes a comment about like make sure people are around.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like don't do this just to him. Make sure there's people who are there to also say like, no, we can't do this. And I thought that was so interesting because like there's sort of a very real tone to that.
Well, and that just highlights what you said before about the level of bureaucracy. Yeah. Right? Like if you're saying it to one person, he can decide whether or not he wants to do it. He doesn't have to tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
If like that nobody would even know if he showed up. But if you have multiple people around, then it's like it's harder to say no, kind of thing. But yeah, I visually this movie was beautiful. It's like one of the most beautiful movies I think that came out this year.
Yeah,
I just like the different sort of. I mean, it's hard to just to say like I like the different places that he went.
Yeah,
but it was. I liked how contrasted from each other they were. Like he was in this like destroyed building that was only lit by like flares and the fire that they lit the fucking
that one
fire.
Scene where the other soldier is on the other side by the fire,
and he goes,
and he kind of goes, and then he starts like walking towards him, and he stops, and it's a very like this is sort of video game-esque
very cartoony
way of like reacting, as if like when he sees him, a little exclamation mark appears above his head, and he goes, "Wait a second!"
Yeah.
And then the way he's like running, chasing him with his gun, and it's just not hitting anything. And
he's
you're
just
like,
going,
"Oh, this is 1917." I forgot. Yeah.
But I think that's also kind of neat too, because like he runs into a couple guys, like, and for the most part, he like
the one guy he kills, which is crazy because he's the only person I think you see him actually like kill because he doesn't really have his gun out almost at all. He has it in the beginning.
Loses his weapon.
He loses it. Oh, he kills the sniper.
Yes.
Right. I thought that scene was weird.
Or sorry, no,
if I had
I
had a complaint, the fact that he's getting shot at by a sniper and the truck was just there. But my argument against myself, who is making this argument,
nobody's asked you to do this.
Is that time passes differently in this movie. So you're supposed to assume that from when the truck leaves to when he climbs onto the bridge is more time than it appears in this movie. And I think for me, because it does sort of like, it is linear, but you do sort of have to suspend disbelief a little bit.
I would disagree. I would say, say there's one sniper in the building and there's what, 5 truckloads of people? The sniper's not going to shoot at them.
No, but they would have heard it. Or they would have seen him being shot.
Them leaving.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
There was like a truck of 50 guys.
Yeah.
But I think like this movie operates in the sense that like going from point A to point B is supposed to take X amount of time.
Sure.
That during that time things like this could happen, but then like time passes supposed to be just like it's not as linear as I think it wants it to be, but it kind of goes like, well, if you just ignore that part and ignore this part.
Okay,
like,
yeah. Because again, they have to make a 2-hour movie, so it has to speed up in some sense. Yeah, okay, I get that.
I think there is a certain on rails aspect to this movie, and that's not in the negative in the slightest. I actually think it's to this movie's benefit.
Yeah,
because obviously, and like from any interviews or videos I've seen, they have had to what's it called? What's it called when you like practice?
Rehearse? Yeah.
They had to like rehearse this movie to death.
Yeah.
And it comes out because there is a certain like back and forth that all the characters have. Like in any conversation, any of the characters interact with other characters. There is a rat, like almost like that rat-tat type to it. Like there is a answer. Like they go back and forth quite well. And I think that is because they've had to rehearse so much, because they've had to like nail it down, go like, we have to do this in one take, so you have to get it right the first time.
I don't know if you saw that video of them. I think it was like with George Mackay, and they said that they had to rehearse so much that they had to figure out how much time it took to go from point A to point B, saying those lines, so that they could figure out when to do everything.
And that makes sense because like you watch it, and especially between the two mains. They have such a good chemistry in like how they like they're supposed to be like friends but still like acquaintances, like they don't quite know each other, but still the way that they interact is so like fluid. And I think it's just appears like that throughout the movie. Like anytime there's any interaction, there's sort of this. I actually think it's a very Christopher Nolan type feel to the movie. Like I think a lot of his movies have that kind of like there is a flow to it, and this movie is just that. Like, I think this movie is, if you were to like describe or try to like show somebody what that looks like, this is the movie.
Yeah. I would say it's very Sam Mendes. I mean, like his other movies have been very much like this, sort of like there's just a nice pace all the way through to it.
Yeah, but I think this is like on drugs.
Oh, okay,
This is
I
like
see.
an absolute extreme extent.
Speaking of which, though, there was like a few things I saw, and it's like, yeah, they had everything down pat for like all their lines and stuff. But then he said, this was with that Dean Charlie Chapman or whatever his name is.
What?
I said Dean Charlie Chapman.
And I was like, Dean who? And then you said Charlie Chapman.
Actually, his name is Dean Charles Chapman.
Oh, all right.
That's wild.
His friends call him Charlie.
But he was saying that because they're in such a compact space and they start rolling, if they bump into someone or say like they're doing a little thing in the trench and then he runs into someone bumps into him, they just have to continue going.
Right.
So they just play it off, or he like says something to him or something. Like there has to be that tiny second, as long as they pick up that sort of lost time.
Right.
So there's a couple of times I saw when George Mackay is running over the field. So they're sending everybody. They send the A group out, and he's running across the field. And there's a couple of times where he like runs into someone, and he just like hops up and sprints forward. Like literally, that's not planned. They just had to like have him run across,
because the way that the way that it goes, like the way that it plays out, is that like, and I've seen like behind the scenes videos, is that there's like literally a truck with the camera.
Yes.
And it's just driving.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of coming out after the truck in sort of this like filtered type way.
In a wave.
And I thought that when I saw it, because I saw the behind the scenes thing, it's like, okay, well, did they plan somebody running into them? And I felt like in a movie like this, absolutely. But then at the same time, you're going like, well, maybe not, because it does look authentic.
It does.
Because he hits him, and he has to get up and sprint.
Yeah.
And then come up to a mark, and then do the exact same thing when he does it again.
Yeah. And it also looks authentic because the first guy that he runs, because he runs into like two guys, I think.
Yeah.
The first guy he runs into doesn't get up.
Yeah, he just kind of rolls over.
He rolls over, and it's like, if you were in like a battle like this, and you get out of the trench, nobody's killed you yet, and you start running towards the enemy, wherever the enemy is, and someone smacks into you and you fall down, you take that as like a sign to not get up.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, I probably I'm not supposed to get up.
Yeah.
And then the second guy that he runs to, kind of his like helmet falls off. He like picks it up, puts it back on, and starts running again. It's like, oh, well, maybe not for everybody. I think the acting in this movie was really, really, really strong.
Yeah, I do too.
George Mackay, I mean, he's a relatively newish actor, but I mean, Dean Charlie Chapman, like he's mostly been in like small stuff, but they could have carried this entire movie. I mean, he dies sort of early on.
Yeah.
But
no, I really enjoyed them in this movie. I think he's got kind of this dorky, like, he's got kind of like the small man thing going on too.
Yeah,
where
dorky
he's kind of
younger brother.
Yeah, and then the other guy is sort of very serious, like he's a soldier. He's maybe seen some shit. Well, obviously because he has like
sort of the medal, and then he like gives it away.
So like, I love that. It's so great. Like it's just they do have that chemistry, and I love to see them through it. But like, I think him dying really does push this movie onto the next level. Yeah. And it's such a like powerful scene where it's obviously supposed to, but like the fact that they pull this guy out, because them pulling him out, like they're not supposed to do that, right? Like they're just pulling him out because he just crashed his plane. They're like, fuck, get him out of there, get him some water or whatever. And then they get burned for doing that kind of thing. Yeah. It's so sad, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, he was just trying to help him, and he dies. It burns him twice, because like he almost dies a second time when he doesn't kill that first soldier that goes out to pee or puke or whatever.
Yeah. It was a great like I think everywhere that they went, sort of like all the sets that they had, and the setting was unbelievable. It was beautiful. Such a beautifully shot movie.
Yeah.
And it is kind of tough to like see sort of like where the direction is in this, kind of because it seems so planned out. It's tough to see where the direction is, like if he's sort of doing like the Damien Chazelle thing where he's like tapping on the shoulder to get him to spin around or something as they're filming. But what really does get highlighted is like Roger Deakins' sort of contribution, I think, because it's such a beautifully shot movie, and you can see how much thought and effort has been put into it. That being said, I think it's a beautifully written movie as well for someone who doesn't write movies. Like, this is Sam Mendes wrote this movie with what's her face? Sorry, let me look it up. Kirsty Wilson Cairns.
Okay.
It's a beautifully written movie as well.
I think that this movie is written well, but I think it's not where it stands, you know? Like
No. That's not, yeah. Exactly. I 100% agree. I don't think that's the strong suit of it. However, with what little dialogue there is, I still think is strong enough.
Definitely. Yeah,
I really like Mark Strong in this. I realized how much I like him.
I do too, yeah. I thought he was great. Like, he was only in it for a bit, but he kind of just like, he has sympathy also at the same time and some empathy, and then to like give him some words of wisdom before he goes is kind of cool. And like, it was just neat seeing him in this sort of role. It was just different.
I like the at the end of the movie they sort of had this little bit about where the movie sort of came from. It was Sam Mendes' grandfather,
great grandfather, or something like that. Yeah.
And this movie is about him. He had to he was a messenger. So
well, I remember I was reading or listening to another podcast talking about it, and they said that there was an interview with him and talking about how like there's some like crazy coincidental stuff in this movie.
Sure.
And he said like, no, that's like literally what happened. Like, my grandfather was talking about how it just didn't make sense how this stuff would line up. Like, you couldn't figure out how all of this stuff would happen in a row or just at the same time or whatever it was. So he's going like, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it just, that's the way it goes. And like that, I think I was trying to capture that in this movie. And it actually does make sense because there is sort of like a row of things that happen. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not unreal. Like it's not ridiculous. It's just, it's the way you sort of accept that that's what's happening.
Yeah. It's a movie. So,
wow.
Okay. So
it's a movie.
Where does this change your top 5 then, since we just did the top 5?
I don't remember what I put for 1.
Knives Out.
Yeah, I think this, well, it's hard because they're like very different movies.
Yeah.
I think this would be a 2.
Really?
Yeah, I think Knives Out just had more going on type thing. And you get more of these actors. Like, I know like Georgia and I talked about this sort of on different sides, but I think they got more time to breathe in that movie. But like this, I think it's more about the aesthetic and about the journey type thing, not necessarily like having somebody act necessarily, like in parentheses, like, or not parentheses, in quotations, because they are acting, but it's sort of different. But yeah, I think it would be 1 or 2. I think I could argue. I think I could, if I sat on it long enough, I could say 1.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you saw this before, maybe we did our episode, would you be able to sort of fit in?
Yeah.
I think this would be tied for 5.
Oh, really?
Which actually is funny enough. Mine's, well, no, I mean top 5 of the year.
Right.
I think so, because it was just like
it's hard in hindsight now to go back.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what I'm struggling with. That being said, I really, really like this movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was like a very, I don't know, like it's almost traditional in its approach to narrative.
Yeah.
Where it's like the hero's journey kind of thing, like, he meets the older guy being maybe like Mark Strong or something. Like all the sort of plot points are there.
Yeah.
But it does such a great job with them.
Yeah.
I guess, like, very layman's way of saying it. But, like, I just really I thought it was really well done. Well executed, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
So what would you give it?
Honestly, I'm leaning towards like a 7.
Really?
6.5, 7. 6.75.
6.
You know what? Fuck it, 7.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
First 7 of the year.
Yeah.
Like this movie, it was like one of those movies where you like come, like I said before, like 10, 20 minutes into this movie, I'm already enjoying it. Like I'm just having the best time. It finishes, I'm like ecstatic that it lived up to the expectations of everything I thought it was going to be.
Yes. I think that's part of it. It's a very fun movie in a sense, even though it is about war and sort of like World War One. World War One is very dark and muddy and but it is fun. Like it's a very fast paced. Everything sort of picks up right away, and
it is fast paced, but it's like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But like it cooks along.
Yeah. I think 6.5.
What does it lose marks for?
I guess maybe just because there isn't that much dialogue.
Right.
It has a lot of really great actors, and like I think one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Chapman is like telling the story about the guy getting the bit of his ear getting bit off.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it was just like nice dialogue between the two of them, and they were sort of just having a great time and stuff. And I realized that that's not very indicative of World War One, but
yeah.
I mostly just like that snapshot of dialogue between the two of them because they are great actors. It was kind of just nice.
Yeah.
And I liked all the dialogue between like, George Mackay and Mark Strong and even motherfucker, what's his name? The lieutenant. Do you remember what the lieutenant's name is?
No.
You know the one that he was like, chuck the gun back when you're done. If you do die.
The Flare,
yeah.
Yeah, he was funny. I liked him.
Oh, fuck, what is his name? I did write it down. Andrew Scott. That's what it was. I was going to say Scott. He was great. Like that little bit where they're talking to him and they're like, why is this guy so like calm? Not even calm, just aloof. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, 6.5 out of 7. I like the dialogue that was in it. It would have been nice to maybe get a little bit more because, like I said, like they all are great actors.
Yeah.
It's sort of not enough. Maybe it's just to have them running or have George Mackay running the whole time or whatever, or trying to escape and stuff. And that last little bit about when he's in the city at dark and he finds the lady with the baby.
Right.
I love that scene.
I do too because it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, it's not my baby," or something like that. And it just kind of like sums up exactly what the two of them are doing, but in very different ways, type thing. And similar but different.
Yeah. Again, like just reinforces the fact that he's
not doing this just for
himself or
whatever,
for Dean. He's doing it for so many other people, and like how he just starts giving it the food and stuff, and he's just like, "Take it all. I don't really need it."
Great foreshadowing with the milk, though.
Yes.
Thought something else was going to happen with the cow. I really did.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to explode or something.
I thought that too. I was like waiting for it to happen.
Because it was the only alive one. I'm like, they rigged it.
Yeah.
There's a bomb in its butthole.
It's going to get shot. Something's going to happen. Oh, and then Richard Madden being the brother.
Yeah. That was good.
That was a good scene. I really liked that. Was like the perfect way to.
Also tiny.
Yeah. I didn't realize how short he was.
Yeah. He's a Tom Cruise level man. But like, it's a great scene, and when he just shakes his hand and stuff, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Twin Speaks. I've been co-host Pat. You follow me on Twitter and social media at Kid Combo. Been joined by Andrew. You can find him on social media at Animonium. I guess we'll be doing Uncut Gems next.
Probably, yeah.
Have you seen Good Time?
No.
It's on Netflix now.
Yeah, I saw it there.
I watched it on Saturday or something.
Right. I might watch it at some point.
Fuck, man, it's a intense watch. You gotta like I think I took a break. I think at one point I got up and like went for a walk or something, and then came back and finished watching it. It's really good. It's amazing. But yeah, cool. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.